Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. It's Tuesday after Memorial Day. We're on campus and we're ready for another session of Facebook Live. This morning we're coming to you from the intersection of Stadium Avenue and University Street. It's John Sautter with the Purdue Alumni Association and April Holeiter behind the camera, and we're ready to give you another glimpse of what's going on campus. And just to make it real for you, we show up this morning and lo and behold, look what we find has occurred here within the last week or so. From the time that we planned this till this morning, construction fences, a lot of workers, and it's the staging area for another section of the State Street redevelopment. And so it's Stadium Avenue from Cary all the way west to McCormick Avenue is now under construction. And so we thought we'd give you a flavor of what's going on campus with that, in addition to what we had planned. But again, it's a beautiful morning, and going to be in the 90s today. It's gorgeous on campus right now. And we're at this corner where many of you, I suspect, have walked through either at homecoming, on your way to football games, even on the way to class. Because we have Armstrong Hall, we have the Pike Fraternity House, we have Cary on the other side, we have construction noise, we have Lambert Fieldhouse right across the street. So a very popular spot on campus to talk about the Gateway Arch, which we're going to do, as well as an Armstrong Hall of Engineering. I can only hope that you hear us. So we'll start with the Gateway Arch right behind you. The Gateway Arch was put up in around 2009 or so. It was sponsored by the class of 1958 and the class of 1959 together, raising funds over $150,000 to build a gateway to the arch. The full name is the Gateway to the Future Arch, which has become a real photo opportunity spot on campus, certainly at commencement time, but all year round, as a gateway to the university itself. The columns are Indiana, Indiana limestone. They're 27 feet tall. The lanterns on top are about 5 feet tall or so. Just a wonderful entrance. The class of 58 fundraising campaign was headed up by Dr. Fred Ford, our chief financial officer for many years. He and Mary have the Ford Dining Court named after them just down the street. Class of 59 was headed up by Ben and Maxine Miller. Ben was the president of Tri-County Telephone Company for many years. He and Maxine have a child care facility on campus located. And the great thing again about Purdue is I see Ben and Maxine down at Panera. I see Fred and Mary at the grocery store. It's just a wonderful community still to have these folks around. But the Gateway Arch is a spot on campus that's really been grown to be appreciated by all the folks who are in this part of the campus. Now we're going to start making our way to Armstrong Hall. Armstrong Hall opened up in 2007, October of 2007. Obviously named for Neil Armstrong. It houses 7 different engineering schools, as well as the office of the dean is located here. Very, very interesting architecture. It was built by Ratio Architects out of Indianapolis, and part of it is to resemble a spacecraft. So you can see the aircraft design almost looks like the wing of an aircraft, all part of the design of this very, very unique building on campus. I can talk about first about the location. This is the location where some of you may recall that we used to have temporary Quonset huts, temporary for 40 years Quonset huts. I actually looked up some photos just to kind of remind some of you. Interestingly enough, I actually found a Quonset hut. This is actually a true Quonset hut. This one's located just the north of the Armory. You can see Hovde Hall in the background. That was used by the creative arts area in the 40s and 50s and 60s or so. And then another view of campus actually points out these are the 5 buildings where we're located right now, and those actually resembled more barracks. In fact, this is the upgraded version. There was the first version which looked pretty temporary, and these were actually upgraded or so. So this is the location of those. October of 2017 we opened up. We can walk a little closer and away from the noise a little bit. You can see in the entryway of the cement here, one small step for a man. It's Neil Armstrong's famous phrase he uttered as he put his first step on the moon back in 1969 or so. It's about 125% size-wise, so it's a little larger. But this is Neil back in his student days. So Neil was a student here, got his degree in 1955 in aeronautical and astronautical engineering. And they say that he's looking up at the moon. Well, when the moon's in the right location, I think that's right. A little bit more about the dedication. October of 2007, they actually had 17 of the living 19 astronauts all back on campus for a huge reunion to celebrate this. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of that, just a huge gathering of all these interesting people. And as I've mentioned, I think several times before in this telecast, at Purdue, it's not that uncommon to see astronauts back on campus. We find out they're just regular folks back on campus doing their thing. 2 weeks ago, perhaps you saw the YouTube of Drew Feustel, one of our two current astronauts up in the International Space Station. He got an honorary doctorate degree. And Scott Tingle, who's with him, actually put the robe on him and gave him put the hood on him and actually gave him his diploma. A very exciting moment for all of Purdue and for the astronaut program and that sort of thing. Really, which was brought to light with Neil Armstrong when he landed Apollo 11 on the moon in 1969. Another interesting facet of the building are the lunar impressions. These are lunar footsteps. We're told these are to scale, and so that would be a boot of an astronaut, and that would be how gravity impacted the different steps that they could take on the moon. And it's a popular spot again to come and look at. The kids love it, where they can kind of jump from footstep to footstep, you know, that sort of thing. Commemorating that historic walking Neil Armstrong and those things. Again, being here with Neil, this is a great photo opportunity. Potentially did it that way with a nice bench that you can sit at and have photos taken when you're back on campus. We're now going to move inside just a little bit. We're just going to really wet your whistle with Armstrong Hall. We're not going to really do a whole lot in depth. We're trying to entice you back to campus with this one to talk more about Armstrong. Just a fascinating building to see. 3 stories above ground, 1 below ground. Again, houses 7 of the engineering programs and the administration area of the building. And this is the atrium of Armstrong Hall. And you're immediately taken by the replica of Apollo 1. This is a replica of Apollo 1. This is the spacecraft that Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, Ed White died in one of the testing phases of it. And Grissom Hall is dedicated to Gus Grissom. There's a mural around the corner dedicated to Roger Chaffee at his time at Purdue and his contributions to the space program. Very interesting building with a variety of labs. About 2/3 of the building is for instruction. About 1/3 of the building is actually for research. And they have what they call a zero gravity lab in this building, zero gravity laboratory, which is basically a 64-foot column where they can drop things down the column, all sorts of things and sizes, and actually experience about 2 seconds worth of weightlessness. And while 2 seconds may not sound like much, the previous lab you could only get 0.8 of a second of weightlessness. This allows them to do any number of experiments as they get into research in the engineering program. Up on the 3rd floor of the building, there's a wall dedicated to each of the astronauts and telling their educational story as well as their accomplishments of astronauts. Just a great facility to visit. On the lower floor is a cafe named Amelia's, appropriately, where you can get a cup of coffee and that sort of thing. So Armstrong Hall, one of our newer buildings, a bright shining jewel on this campus. We would certainly invite you back to see this. You can arrange tours, you know, through the dean's office here. It's just another reason to come back to campus, another part of the campus that maybe you've not seen for a while, and that's obviously what we're trying to do through these Facebook Live Tuesday tours for you. I do want to add a side note on behalf of April and myself. We appreciate the positive feedback that we continue to receive from folks by way of email and texts and even walking across campus, those sorts of things. People have really warmed up to this approach to keeping people informed about the campus, and on behalf of the Alumni Association, we appreciate that. We hope you'll express your interest in the Alumni Association and certainly join if you're not a member already. So this is actually the first program of our second season, and so we plan to keep them going. In about 2 weeks or so, we'll be back on campus. I think we're going to maybe find the Union Building again, just to kind of get back inside and stir up some memories about being back in the Union Building. So, April.
Mary Collins wanted to know, are all the buildings open to non-students or alumni?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. During the summer, we have classes in session, and so they're all open to the public. You're welcome to come into all the buildings and have a look around. During normal operating hours, 8 to 5, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, we would welcome you to come back to campus and look around. In fact, look us up. We'd be happy to walk you around campus and show some things. If you have some time, drive you around. That's happening more and more these days, as a matter of fact. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. So that's it for this time, and so till next time, hail Purdue, and have a good day out there, all you Boilermakers.